Hello guys and welcome back to the Darwin setup guide. In this part I want to talk a little bit about the beta angle, which is more or less quite an obvious setup or adjustment option many pedals offer, but interestingly it changes quite a bit of the geometry or how the pedal feels and reacts, especially with the Darwins, due to its very progressive spring geometry. Basically, and obviously, to adjust the beta angle, you need to loosen the beta clamp and its screw, which is placed over here on the Darwins, and then you can basically completely independently and stepless rotate the beta to your preferred setting. There are some reference marks. There is one main reference mark that always stays at the same position. This is the narrow one closest to the main pillar, and then there are several marks on the beta clamp itself. My preferred starting point are 2.5 marks away from the top, which is more or less should be around the 45-degree beta angle, but it's my personal preferred beta angle to start with. Obviously, the beta angle adjusts how deep you need to press into the pedal in order to let the beta reaches the drum head and generates a sound. But also, what most people forget about this adjustment is it also adjusts how much the spring gets stretched through the motion of the beta, because a larger beta angle also results in more spring tension at the very end of your motion and of your beta motion. So what I want to say with that, you have one, for example, this is your basic spring tension, but with your beta angle set up closer to the drum head, that means that you have less power or less tension going on compared to if the beta is basically set up all the way here and you need to press all the way here until the drum head or until the beta reaches the drum head, because the spring gets stretched out way more. And that's the reason why I recommend to adjust the spring tension as the very last step once you want to find a setup, because you do influence the reaction and the feeling of the pedal quite a lot with the beta angle. So in my experience, it's way more efficient to play with less spring tension but with a larger beta angle. On the strap drive, it also varies a little bit on how the strap drive cam is set up, where this power edge and eccentric setup really grips into depending on the beta angle. But that's also one of the a topic of one of the next parts. On the direct drive, you need to be aware of that, because this beta angle is independently adjustable from the footboard cam angle or from the direct drive cam angle, that a direct drive has a point where it's on its very bottom end, where it doesn't go any further. So for example, if I would have my footboard angle or my direct drive cam very low and my beta angle at this distance, I don't know if this works out now, yeah, because when I now press all the way through in, the direct drive linkage lines up completely and comes to a total stop, so it doesn't go any furthermore, and the beta angle or the beta didn't reach the drum head at all during that motion. So when you play quite a large beta angle, I always recommend to shift the footboard cam also a little bit further back in order to compensate that. You also can mess around and experiment a little bit with the what I like to call the direct drive timing. So you actually can mess around with this very bottom point in order to get an advantage out of this motion that actually helps you getting faster, getting to a certain point, giving you a reference point in the motion, and so on. So that will be one of my favorite topics to talk about in the direct drive setting of the Darwin setup guide. But besides that, in terms of the beta angle, as I said, start with a more or less medium to low spring tension, and if you feel the need for more tension in the system, just increase the beta angle a little bit more. Once you have reached the point where it gets unhealthy, because you do need to press very deep into the pedal, that feels uncomfortable, or you actually hit the beta on your shin or on any other part of your leg, then it's time to increase the basic spring tension, which will be the next or one of the next parts I'm going to talk about. So with that being said, as usual, if you have any specific questions about that setup, feel free to contact me, reach out to me, and I'm hopefully able to answer your questions. Before I forget, there will be also various, let's say, setup recommendations I got from lots and lots of different people. So I will go through them, show you the advantages, probably the disadvantages of that specific setting, and you should be able to just copy it, give it a try at home, and maybe it's something you can build on and maybe not. To make it short, for me it's quite fun to experiment with the pedals and all its different settings and combinations, which honestly gives you quite a bit of range to completely mess around with the feeling of the pedal. So yeah, with that being said, I hope to see you in the next part.